Got Your Back Chat, a podcast where we talk about whatever we want as young people. Today we're joined by me, Scarlet, Tosh and Ruby. How is everyone today?
I'm very good.
I'm well, thank you very much.
Yeah, great. So, today we're talking about understanding boundaries and healthy relationships. We've covered this theme throughout February, so make sure you subscribe and follow us on socials at GYBHole or search Got Your Back Hole on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube and Spotify. So, just generally, what's your understanding of boundaries?
I think boundaries are...
It's just sort of like ground rules, I guess, that you
Yeah.
sort of you lay down with any sort of relationship, whether it's like family or friends or like, I don't know, co-workers.
Kind of
just like just laying down some sort of rules of like, okay, you can do this, but I'd rather you didn't do this and stuff like that.
It's kind of like the extent you can push people to, really, without it getting like out of hand.
Like sort of certain jokes that people don't want making about them and stuff like that. Like just laying down
Basic
Yeah.
ground rules, yeah.
It's just like basic rules that like make sure that everyone involved is comfortable. I think is probably the best way to define it. Like it just ensures that every party involved is comfortable in the situation that they're in.
So true, Scarlet.
I agree. Well done. Well said.
Thank you so much.
My sinuses.
So,
Sorry.
in particular, is there any named boundaries that you've set with people, or that people have set with you, or that you could like ones that pretty much everyone has? Because I think there's some pretty general boundaries that just generally people have when they're making relationships, like
The law.
well, the
I
law's
think-
a good one.
I think one thing is there are sort of things where you expect like, oh, they'll just know that, and then they don't, and it's like now you sort of have to make that a spoken boundary, and it can be kind of awkward being like, hey, I'd rather you didn't do this thing that I feel like is sort of a given that you don't do. But
Yeah, that's why I think-
like what, Ruby? Come on, give an example.
I don't like sort of with friends in the past, like they would just sort of make certain like comments
Yeah.
about me or like the way I looked or whatever, and it's just like don't do that. Like I feel like that's sort of a given, but I don't know whether they didn't understand or they just like didn't care.
Yeah.
But
I think that's why communication is so important.
Yeah.
Though. Like, because I think it's easy to be like, oh yeah, obviously they should be able to tell that I'm not comfortable with that. But some people don't really get the messages as much, and it's not a flaw with them, it's just the thing that's like, sometimes it's actually not as clear as you think it is. So I think communication is like the most important thing in any relationship you have with literally anyone, because without it, like, no one's going to know what you're comfortable with, and no one's going to know if you're unhappy in a situation, because you have to tell them these things.
Agree.
Yeah, so, and I think it's like, I don't think there's a certain time that you would set boundaries with someone either. I think I think it's always, I think like it depends on the relationship and the person you're talking with, but I think that you should set boundaries as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Because it's like a preventative measure. It's like, don't tell them after they've done it, because then that'll make them feel bad and that'll make you feel bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's like there should be a preventative thing.
And I understand it can sort of feel awkward sometimes, like, you know, especially if you're saying stuff that you feel like should just be common knowledge. If you're sort of saying like, hey, I'd rather, like, just before they've done any of it, saying I'd rather you didn't do this and this and this, I feel like some people can feel like that's sort of awkward to say, but I feel like it is necessary.
Yeah.
And if they really want to be like your friend or close to you in whatever way, then they're just sort of going to have to deal with a bit of an awkward chat.
I feel like there's stuff like that that's just like blamed on leftist propaganda. Like, there's like, I don't know, just like I don't know, just like when people are like, why would you use trigger warnings and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And it's like, God, these leftist propaganda. Like, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I think some people probably would find it a bit patronising if you were like, hey, I'd rather you didn't do this, and like, yeah, obviously I'm not going to do that. But I also think if someone reacts like that, then you probably don't want them to be close in
Yeah.
your life anyways. Like, if someone takes you expressing something you're comfortable or not comfortable with, if you're placing your boundaries with someone and then they're like, yeah, okay, but like, whatever, then, or
Yeah,
they
like,
are
sort of
offended.
get offended.
Yeah, then just
'Cause
drop
I
them,
think as
girl.
well,
You don't need them in your
often
life.
boundaries can come from like past experiences and like things that they will find triggering if you say certain things. So if you're sort of dismissive of that, then that can be quite sort of damaging. So if someone says to you like at the beginning of a relationship, whether that's like a friendship or like romantic or whatever, if they say, hey, could you sort of not say these certain things or not do these certain things, then try not to be like very dismissive and be like, oh well, I wasn't planning on doing that anyway, whatever, because you might have just like done it as a joke at some point in the future and then really hurt that person, you know?
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is beautiful. Well
Thank
said.
you.
Well said. So, guys.
Slay.
I do my sassy walk.
Call back. So, obviously, guys, we know that an unhealthy relationship is one that doesn't have boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
because boundaries are a pretty good thing to have. I don't
Yeah.
know where I'm going with this.
Boundaries are great.
Boundaries are a great thing to have. I don't know where I was going with that. Anyways, what does a healthy or an unhealthy relationship look to you?
I think it does all just link back to communication. A healthy relationship, you sort of communicate, because I mean, in any relationship, then there's going to be sort of problems and struggles. You're not just going to go through an entire like lifetime or whatever with someone without any complaints about anything that they do. That's unrealistic. But you need to sort of say like, look, when you do this, then it upsets me or whatever. So I do think communication is just important to create that healthy relationship, because obviously
Agree.
if you don't communicate, then they'll keep doing it.
Someone's gonna cross your boundaries.
Yeah.
And all the like key things like honesty and trust that like everyone
Honesty
talks
is
about.
always the best policy.
Exactly.
So true,
And all of that
Tosh.
links back to communication as well, because you can't be honest
Yeah.
with someone if you're not talking to them. Obviously, that's
True.
like, and you can't trust someone with something you've told them if you don't tell them.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think communication is just the big one, because every single sort of healthy thing that you can have in a relationship always just links back to communication and making sure you express your needs and wants, and the other person or the other people express their needs and wants, and then it's all just a fun little time. In a relationship, you've got healthy stuff and you've got unhealthy stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or red and green flags, one could say.
Ooh, that's an interesting analogy,
That is,
Scarlet.
I know, I've
How
thought that
did you
one
come
myself.
up with
Thought
that?
that one
Are we
myself.
talking about our red and green flags? Because that's
So-
quite fun.
How can you
Yeah.
identify red and green flags in a person or in a relationship?
Instant red flag.
Yeah,
Is
I
it
think
a-
there are certainly some things to look out from first meetings. Like, there are just, and I think things
Their
that people,
demeanour.
things that people think are normal are often the biggest red flags, like when they do something so casually and it's like,
Or when they listen to Green Day.
when they listen to Radiohead. But no, I think certainly, like, especially in first meetings of someone, I feel like you can tell a lot about them just looking at how they sort of talk about certain subjects.
Whether they only talk about themselves.
And I think there are also some more sort of, like, I guess, like on TikTok and stuff, it's a big thing to say, like, red flag or green flag. If he doesn't like dogs, that's a red flag. But it definitely goes deeper than that as
Yeah.
well. Like, there are some actually, like, dangerous signs. And I think it's important to see red flags before they develop more.
You don't want to develop a relationship with someone who has
Yeah,
many red flags.
like, you need to
Obviously,
realise
yeah.
soon and then get out of there. Because one thing is, if,
I think we need to start getting onto examples, Ruby.
like, like if a
Sorry, I was gonna make
relationship...
BoJack Horseman reference.
No,
The
the
funny
rose-tinted
thing is,
glasses.
when you wear rose-tinted glasses, the red
All the red
flags
flags just look like flags. So true, owl lady that BoJack dated.
True.
So, does anyone have any examples of red flags? When they steal your peperami. That's a good one. So, you guys, that's a bit of an inside joke.
I've got a good one, and I just did it to you, so sorry. Like, when you're, like, I think this, when someone speaks over you, but, like, obviously not in an accidental way, because everyone speaks over someone in certain ways. Yeah. But, like, when someone constantly speaks over you, I think that is big red flag. It just
shows, like, their privilege that they think they have.
And they just, like, don't care about what you have to say.
Yeah, exactly.
I think jokes are a major red flag. Not like jokes in general.
Just being funny.
Looking at what jokes someone makes, you can tell so much about whether that's like a green flag or a red flag.
And whether they play it off as dark humour or not.
Yeah, because saying the phrase dark humour is a red flag.
I think a lot of dark humour jokes, you get, like, obviously there are some that's like, oh, that's a bit controversial and funny and whatever.
Yeah.
But certain things are just like, you need to watch out, and if they're making jokes about certain subjects, you need to stay away.
And I think also if they're making, like, you can make like dark jokes about your own experiences, like if you've been through something, you can then make jokes about that. But if somebody else makes jokes about the things that you've been through, and they know that, like, that's not something you're comfortable with, that is a bad one. And then if they say, oh, well, you make jokes about it, why can't I? No.
Because I feel like it's shown a lot in, like, was it the Sarah Everard case, when, like, the police officer that had killed her was, like, sort of infamously, like, known around, like, amongst the police station, and he was, like, making jokes in, like, WhatsApp groups and stuff, and that was sort of resurfaced.
Some stuff recently about like resurfaced about
about, like, the sort of jokes that
police officers make, and there's always that, like, disgusting text chat with that.
And I think that just, it shows a lot about often sort of, like, banter and jokes like that's stuff that you can't relate to at all, and you're making jokes about doing certain things to other people, that can often sort of manifest in a really dangerous way and come to create quite a dangerous person. I think
generally a red flag as well if someone is controlling and, like, doesn't let you do things that you want to do and stuff like that. That's instantly a red flag.
And I think it often, a lot of the time with red flags, it starts off as something so small, you know, maybe they say, oh, that top is cut a bit low, don't you think? And then it comes to, like, blocking your friends and, like, you know, like, it sort of, it manifests in a very, like, it starts off like this really small thing, just a few small comments, and then it builds its way up until you're in actually quite a dangerous situation. So I think you need to spot those signs when they're like new, and either say something like, I'll wear whatever shirt I want to wear, or just get out there, you know, before it becomes dangerous for you.
And I think tell other people as well, like, if you're dating someone and he's like, and you're like, oh, I'm just going out with some friends, and he's like, like, Razzie didn't do that, why didn't you, like, you know what I mean, like, that sort of situation, like the controlling situations. I think also getting, like, a third party to sort of gauge it as well and be like, oh, he said this to me, like, what do you think about that? And then will be able to reflect, because obviously if you've been dating someone, even if it's, like, not for that long, there's some sort of, there's, like, feelings there, and it's hard.
You don't want to see.
And it's, like, hard to gauge someone if they're being, like, toxic, because you, like, are so emotionally involved with them. So I think get a third party, and then also if that third party says, like, that's a bit weird, like, you probably shouldn't have said that, then it's good, because then they can watch out for you as well, and then you can come to them if it does develop, or even if it doesn't develop and they just keep saying weird freakish things, then you know you've got someone looking out for you, and you know you have someone who, like, knows about what they're saying.
And I think that's why abusers so often sort of shut you off from your friends and your family. They'll sort of try and turn you against, like, friends and family, and they'll sort of distance you from them. And it means you can no longer get that third party opinion, and you only have them to look to for advice. And then obviously they'll say what I do is fine, and you'll just have to believe them.
Any green flags, guys? Come on, let's lighten up.
Green flags.
When
he likes dogs.
Oh my god.
No, that's actually when he's a cat person and not a dog person.
I don't know if I agree with that.
No, I prefer.
I just think liking pets in general is a green flag.
Yeah, but what if they're allergic to pets though?
Yeah, but you can still like something.
Inexcusable.
It's just the opposite like we said, like
Good
instead of talking
communication.
over you, listening to you, you know, instead of judging you and being controlling, letting you have your own life outside of the relationship.
And also telling you when they feel you're wrong as well.
Yeah. And I think just communicating constantly, it's just so important to just like, when you're happy with someone, when you're mad with someone, then just let them know, and then that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Being comfortable to share your own opinions.
Yeah. And I think as well, just when you feel comfortable around them and when you feel happy around them, like you can't sort of like force a relationship or a friendship or whatever with someone that you maybe just don't get along with. So I think it is just important, like even if they're the biggest green flag in the world, if you don't like them, then that's fine.
Yeah. I think
Truth.
so. Very much.
Speak it.
So Scarlet, what green
Scream
flags
it
do
from
you
them.
have?
Green flag. Well.
Oh, I'm not doing that.
So Tosh, what red flags do you have?
Go on, Scarlet. What green flags do you
Green
have?
flags do I have?
You're very kind and considerate.
Oh my god, thank you so much. Come on, keep it going, guys.
Yeah, you have a dark sense of humor.
Okay.
You read, and you're not like other girls.
Oh my god, true. Anyways.
Tosh's red flags, allergic to cats.
Yeah.
That's a
Not
red
badly
flag.
though, so I can still be around them. Just
Sure,
allergic.
sure.
I mean, I can.
Sounds like
And
something.
dogs.
Also, I think
And
I
horses.
think whether my pets
You're
like
allergic to
someone,
horses, that's so funny.
I think whether my pets like someone or not, relies
No,
a
but I
lot
don't
on.
think that Rainbow likes me.
Rainbow likes you. Rainbow doesn't like Tosh.
You are
so I
such a
don't like
liar,
Tosh.
Ruby, because you literally are lying right now.
Why?
Because you literally can't even tell whether she likes me or
I
not.
can.
No,
she
you
doesn't
can't.
like you.
No, she actually does like me because that one time I came to your house.
Yeah, she does
like
like you.
sat in my
What
lap
do you
like-
mean?
She
She
loves
likes
Lottie as
Scarlet.
well.
She does
She
like me.
loves
Because
Lottie.
Lottie's
You know
always
what?
at your
She
house.
shows off in front of everyone else because this one time it was only me at Ruby's house and you went upstairs to get changed and Rainbow sat in my lap and was like letting me like stroke it for like so long and then as soon as you came downstairs she jumped out. Like,
Yeah, that's
she's,
literally
like,
she
being
did that with
so
me. She did that with me.
manipulative.
You know when we had that pool party, she let me. She
Yeah.
like sat in my lap and she let me stroke her. So
No, I do remember that actually.
Why is Rainbow like showing some red flags right now?
actually,
like she
true.
acts different around like
no,
other
Rainbow is a
people.
walking
like,
red flag actually.
Yikes. So this don't have to say because it's a bit of a tricky one, but do any of you have any experiences of unhealthy relationships you can bring to the table?
Okay, so once I was in primary school, right, and there was this girl called Tiffany, right, and I used to bring a peperami every day to school, and I was getting a bit suspicious because I would always give this girl half my peperami, and then it depended like I did this experiment one time. I did this experiment one time where I gave her the peperami at the start of lunch instead of at the end, and she left straight after. But then I gave her pepperoni at the end of lunch another day, and then she stayed with me all lunch. Like, don't you think that's kind of
That is
toxic?
a crazy story, Tosh. That is so crazy.
That is, like,
And if you would have communicated and said, I'm more than just a pepperami, and you have to love me despite, no, wrong word, and my pepperami,
Yeah.
not just the pepperami.
No, despite would work. You have to love me despite the pepperami.
No, but then that's like, she doesn't like the pepperami.
I've had an unfriendship. I've had an unhealthy friendship. Let me.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Do you know what one unhealthy friendship was? So there was this guy right here.
Did it involve a pepperami?
No.
Did it
right.
involve a scrap in front of the whole school?
No, but that
I
is.
think you should tell that story.
Okay, right. So
instead.
I'll tell that story. So I used to have a friend. We'll call
What?
her.
No, I think you should call her by her name.
No, I'm
Call her
not,
out.
I am not calling her out. We'll call her.
What a lovely girl.
Like, what is
Loved
she
her.
called? And then
I used to have this friend.
yeah.
She was called Petunia. It's not her real name, but it could be. You never know.
You actually are both wrong in this situation, I remember now.
Yeah.
You both could have solved your problem.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry.
So she was very toxic to me. She was not very nice. She used to just hit people in the arm and be like, lol. And she was a pretty strong gal. Like, that was painful. And then I was like, girl, what are you doing right now? So we weren't friends anymore. And then I called her a rat.
In a group
chat. That one of her
Was
friends.
this year 9 or year 8?
This was year 8. That one of her friends was in, and then she found out, and then she came up to me at lunch and just like punched me in the face, and then there was like a little scrap, but it wasn't a proper scrap because it was more just me being hit.
Oh, it was so funny.
And anyways, so that was a very unhealthy relationship because she was
really
just
go into the
mean to
detail
me.
of the scrap though.
Well, the detail of the scrap was she came up behind me, grabbed my hair, and then punched me in the face.
Yeah, then
What did she say to you?
I don't remember.
I pulled her off. No, she was like, what you been saying to your ratty friends?
Oh yeah, and then I was like, oh yeah, I called you a rat because I don't like you, you don't like me. This is an agreement we have. Like, I don't understand why this has got to be a thing. And then she just hit me.
Yeah, and then I pulled her off, and then Ben pulled you off, and it was a whole thing. It was so fun.
Yeah.
And then you told Mr. Orter, and it was just the best time of my life.
True. But that was a very unhealthy relationship because she was just mean to me, and she used to say things like, I think she just was not a very nice gal.
You could have expressed your dislikeness to her face instead of...
Are you joking me? That would have been even more hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the girl that stole your peperami, she was quite mean to you as well, wasn't she, just in general?
No, she was actually alright. She was quite nice.
She was mean to you.
Honestly, like, I was in the wrong at the time, I think. It was just like... It was a whole ordeal, and I had to just recognise that it was primary school, and that's just the way things are.
And I think another thing that was very unhealthy, that I think is a very key thing with my wonderful friend Petunia, was that I used to always like help her. Like, she used to always message me, be like, Scarlet, I'm really sad right now, can we like talk about this? And then I would always agree, and I'd always be really nice. And then the second I would message her and be like, hey girl, a bit sad right now, can we? And she'd be like, no, sorry, busy. So I think that is a big red flag when someone...
It's a really good thing that your friends feel comfortable relying on you for mental support, but it's not always good for both people.
Yeah.
Like, it's not fair to just rely on your one friend for mental support.
To rely on them is actually like really dangerous, because then you're basically putting like your entire mental well-being in the hands of someone who is not a trained therapist.
Not just that as well. I think it puts a lot of stress on the person you're telling it to.
Yeah. And it's like there's a big difference between like talking to someone occasionally and being like, hey, I'm kind of sad, and them saying, oh, I'm here for you, I love you, and them just constantly like saying, talk to me now, I need you here right now, talk to me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, that puts so much stress on the other person, and often it can actually like mess up their like mental well-being. Like, because sometimes like I've been in a really good place, and then someone has just like completely relied on me to always be there for them and listen to their stuff, and then that's put me in a really bad place mentally, because I've just like been like weighed down by
and
what they're telling
especially if
me.
they're like one of your good friends, it's difficult to tell them that you just need a break from their problems.
Yeah, and it depends on the like. Obviously, if someone's just like sad, and then they're like, oh yeah, like this is, and then you can give them support for that. But a lot of the time, when they're genuinely struggling with something, like that's a big issue, and then they put like a lot of heavy stuff on you. Like, that is awful. And I think obviously if you know that you can handle it, and you can just express to them, you can be like, listen, this, obviously I'm not trained in this, but this is the advice I can give you, and if you can handle that to a certain extent, obviously that's good and you want to be there for them. But also it's the same, it's just boundaries. It's just these boundaries of just being able to say that I physically cannot deal with this, and I don't think it's healthy for you.
Because if
like,
you are
I think my friendships at the moment, where of course I'll be there for the people that I love, and they can always rely on me, but I try, if they're ever expressing that, then I try and limit it to as closed a conversation as possible, which is, I feel like that's not always the best route to go. But especially if you're not feeling like you can deal with that, but you don't want to be horrible. You just you should tell them that.
And I think as well, obviously, if you are struggling, then that's completely valid and that's fine, and you should be able to like tell your friends like, hey, I'm in a bit of a bad place at the moment. But try not to put so much heavy stuff on them, because if you are really going through something serious, there will be sort of more professional people you can talk to, whether that be like at your school, or if you like maybe mention it to your parents and they can look at getting you in touch with like a therapist or something, you know, like really do find yourself struggling, try not to put that solely on your friends who aren't licensed in any way to give professional help.
Agree.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up from me. So, to have a little conclusion, what advice would you give to someone if they think they might be in an unhealthy relationship, or they're not too sure, or they're not really sure what to look out for in the relationships that they have?
I think what you said earlier about getting a third party to always check if you're in an unhealthy relationship, it's so important, I think. Yeah.
And I think just, literally, I feel like we said the word communication like 100 times, but I think just saying to someone like, I feel like some of the things you're doing I'm not that comfortable with, and this isn't the healthiest situation, and then gauging the way that they react to that.
Yeah.
Because if it's someone you want to associate with, they'll be like, oh, like, I'm really sorry, do you want to talk about it? Like, I can stop doing certain things, or we can work through this. Or if they're like, no, everything I'm doing fine, you're wrong. Yeah. You're literally imagining it. Then you know that you don't want to associate with them.
I think one thing that can be really, like, dangerous in a friend group is, like, or just like in any sort of relationship, I guess, is like not ever having an argument with them because you've never said like how you feel. Because I, like, in my friend group, which lasted about 5 years, then we had one argument and then suddenly I was like kicked out, and it's like, if I would have known 5 years ago that that's how they would react to an argument, I probably wouldn't have stuck around for 5 years. So I think it is important to sort of communicate and even have a little argument from very early on, because then you can see how someone reacts to being challenged. Yeah. And if they don't react in a good way, then get out of there.
Yeah. We've never had an argument.
No. Yeah, we have. When I was annoyed at you that one time.
When were you annoyed at me?
When we were at Scarlet's house.
Oh, that was not an argument.
And I was a really
that was not an argument. You were just you were being.
I was being moody.
Yeah, you were.
But we solved it through communication.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we haven't had an argument, because
we're good at communicating. Yeah.
No, you two had a little, didn't you?
When?
But before I was in the friend group, I thought you did.
We've never had a proper argument, because anytime you do anything that I don't like, I go, no. That's to stop.
Oh, I thought you had like never mind.
I don't think so.
I think I'm making things up.
I think you are.
Ruby, why are you trying to stir the pot right now?
I've never been mad at Scarlet, because Scarlet is perfect and can do no wrong.
True.
No, so, I feel like I want to know.
What did you
trying to think? Yeah, what
did
you think?
I don't know.
And where have you heard this?
I don't know.
Who's been spreading these lies?
That's it from us this month. Yay. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for listening. Make sure to follow us on our socials at GYB Home. Remember, all of these episodes are on YouTube and Spotify. Goodbye.
Bye.
Got Your Back Chat is a podcast made by Got Your Back, a media made by young people for young people. Got Your Back Chat is managed by Eskimosoup for the Got Your Back campaign. Alice O'Dwyer is our campaign lead, Jenny Harrison is our producer, Keely Graham is our designer, and Peyton Hutchinson made the jingle. You can follow Got Your Back on social media by searching @GYBHull, and make sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to hear more in the future.